Hey friends. So I know it's been a minute. I took a bit of a holiday hiatus, I suppose, to really kind of figure out, I don't know, what I'm doing, why I'm doing this, if it's worth the time and the energy. And I was kind of ready to give up and then had this idea that kind of came to me in a dream ish, gave me a little bit of direction and guidance on some of the things I really want to talk about. I kind of just figured maybe we would do a little more story time today or to start, I don't know, and just kind of see where this goes. So the reason I started this channel, it's something that I've thought about for a while, wanting to do for a while, but I'm kind of camera shy. It's very vulnerable to put yourself out on the internet like this, and it just needed to feel right before I started doing it. I've been working with a career coach, and my career coach challenged me to do a video a day throughout the month of December, which you can see how that went if you look at the other videos on my channel. But it was good. It was a good start. You know, I needed to just start, and so that's what I did. And here's where I'm at. The catalyst for starting this channel really came about 3 months ago. I was let go from a job that I really, really loved. And without getting into too much detail, I kind of knew that this separation was coming, but it still really took me out. You expect it, but you're never really ready for it. And when it happens, it's just devastating. There were a lot of things that I feel people just don't talk about. You know, there's a lot of shame around being laid off, being fired. That's why I feel like people don't talk about it. However, I feel like we need to. I feel like it needs to be talked about because the emotions that you go through, I went through sadness, I went through some anger, I went through despair. It just really rocked me to my core. And this isn't the first time I've had these kind of feelings when it came to like a job separation. This one was just a little bit different because I had no control over it. There was nothing I could say. There was nothing I could do. It wasn't on my terms. And even though the writing was on the wall, part of me just wasn't ready to start looking because the job search process is painful. And when you couple that with a job market that is trash, particularly for my industry, it's just more trouble than it's worth. So I tried to stick it out as best I could. I tried to make myself as valuable as I could. I thought and was encouraged to explore other skills and dig in, I guess, to some things that I was interested in, but inevitably it just didn't work out. I knew where to start and I didn't know where to start. So I've worked with a career coach previously and it was phenomenal. I definitely recommend if you are job searching to look at investing in a career coach because it's more than just helping you with a resume and, you know, mock interviews and it, depending on the type of career coach you have, and the one that I'm working with right now recognizes that those like micro traumas that are essentially created with a job separation or with a toxic work environment, and they ensure that your mental health is in a good place to be able to go through the job search and be able to interview and know what it is that you're looking for. So I've been working with this career coach 2 weeks after I was let go. I knew I needed to do it. I needed to get through some of those initial emotions. I really wanted to spend time figuring out what's working and what's not working, what makes me happy, what I can put up with and what I won't put up with. And what does that look like? I'm getting to that place. It's taken me 3 months now to kind of get to this place. And I've got some things I'm pretty excited about. But one of the reasons why I'm bringing this story up is I hate the way that we find jobs. I don't know if this is like a global thing or an American thing, but like the process that we go through is antiquated and miserable. And I just don't think it's working. I don't think it's working. I knew when I was let go that it was the end of a quarter. So we're talking, quarter four. I've worked in finance, I've worked in budgeting. Budgets are drying up. People are preparing for Q1, or they're trying to wrap up Q4 to hit their numbers. And then everything is kind of getting pushed to Q1 of the next year to hit the ground running. And I'm a person who does not like to waste time. I don't like to waste my time. I don't like to waste someone else's time. I want my time spent in this life on this earth to mean something. And I've spent so much time wasting time that I'm over it. I pretty much knew from the beginning, I was like, I am not going to go out on LinkedIn. I'm not going to create an Indeed. I'm not going to do any of that. Like, I am not going to just apply to positions, because that's not how you get a job. In fact, anytime someone is posting a job, I'm pretty much like, it's already too late. So I knew at the end of last year that I just wasn't going to put the time and the effort into applying for jobs and updating my resume and all of those things. I was going to be prepared for when January 2025 hit. I was not going to just start blasting out my resume and filling out the million questions in the application. Spent a lot of time thinking and reflecting and healing and trying to figure things out. And I'm in a really good place now. I'm still figuring things out and figuring out my trajectory, but I at least feel like I'm on a solid foundation mentally and emotionally, and I am kind of looking forward now. But saying that, it's also caused me to kind of reflect back on how do I get what I want, where I want to be. I really look back at all the struggles when it comes to job searching and applying and getting that job. And I just think it's bullshit. I think the whole thing is bullshit and it needs to burn, and we need to start over. Just scorch the damn earth with the process, because it's miserable. It's miserable for job seekers. It's miserable for job recruiters. It's just miserable. And it doesn't need to be. It should not be this difficult to find good talent, to find a job, a career. It just shouldn't. That got me kind of thinking like, okay, what is so miserable about it? Like, why is this process so painful that it's like the one thing I dread doing? Why? Why is this so painful? So a couple of things that I thought about were, just resumes in general. I'm done. I'm done with resumes. I am done creating one. I'm done updating one. I'm done revamping it. Like, I'm over it. Because what do we do with this piece of paper? Well, or this PDF? We blast it out to online applications. We post it maybe on our LinkedIn, and someone gets it And it's not really a good picture of my qualifications. It's not a good picture of who I am as a person. Like, we spend so much time and energy trying to portray a very professional and business picture of ourselves that is not really who we are in real life. I'm not saying we're not professional. I'm just saying, like, it lacks personality. And it is the one thing as an interviewer hiring for a job that I just don't even want to look at it. I feel like it needs to be a part of the interview process, maybe like someone shows an interest in the position. Then I want to have a conversation with them and then look at their resume. I want to get to know people. I think that we really need to rethink resumes and what they look like and how we use them and if they're even worth it. Let's move on to applications. Applying for jobs. I'm over it. I'm over trying to find your application. I'm over creating an account with Workday 100 times to fill in the exact same information again and again and again for it to go nowhere. Either it goes into the void, or my personal favorite is, we'll retain this for future. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are never going to look at my application or my resume again. Let's be honest. We fill out these applications and we fill out all this information over and over and over again. For what? For what? Why are we doing this? Why do you need to know where I went to school and what I studied? Half of the time, your best employees don't even have degrees in what they're doing. Now, obviously, we want our doctors to have gone to school and are well-versed and qualified in medicine, okay? Pilots need to do their training and learning and all of that kind of stuff. This is specific to tech jobs and office business administration. I've had teachers be some of the best developers. I've had history majors be some of the best leaders. If all I'm looking at is an application and a resume, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Again, the application process is a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time. The whole ATS thing, again, like, what are we doing? Why am I trying to beat the system in order to be on your radar? It's just frustrating. And there could be an argument for, we don't want bots and we don't want spam. Okay. Again, like, you're still going to get that. Whose time are you really wasting? Yours and mine. So let's fast forward. So I've applied for a job. You have my resume. I get to the point where, for whatever reason, I have qualified for a 15-minute interview. We get into these 15-minute interviews. I get really frustrated with the interview process because everyone tries to make it so prescriptive and so formal. There's also the power imbalance in an interview that's frustrating to me. Call me crazy, but why can this not just be a conversation? You need something from me and I need something from you. Why am I trying to impress you when you should also be trying to impress me? Not everything can be done, through networking, but there's got to be a better way. I mean, if someone is throwing their name in the hat, that person wants that job. How do we shift our time from wasting job seekers' time filling out applications and updating their resumes and performing these mock interviews and doing all of these things, to having a conversation with someone, getting to know someone, and then figuring out if there's a fit here. I think it's also important to realize, like, a job description is not everything. half of those are created by SHRM, SHRM. Basic, generic. People don't know what they want or what they need, or they know what they don't want or don't need. And half the time they don't read those job descriptions. So job seekers are sitting here trying to figure out if they're even qualified for a role. The people who are hiring for them don't even know. So one thing that I learned in my career was that skills can be taught, but a person's personality is unlikely to change. Their values are unlikely to change. If you have someone who is applying for your role, we are asking the wrong questions in the interview. We are not, where someone went to school and what they studied and all of these things don't matter. I want to know what you're excited about. I want to know what gets you out of bed. I want to know, are you curious? Are you a learner? Are you enthusiastic? Do you want to be a part of this organization, a part of this team, and why? What values does the organization have that you share? Because I feel like a lot of great people get cut out because they don't fit the qualifications, but they can be taught and they can end up being your best performers and they can learn quickly. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Okay, moving on. Believe me, I have 1,000 more thoughts on all of these steps, but I'm trying not to go on for days. So we get through the application and the interview. We maybe get a 15-minute interview. We most likely get ghosted. Then 3 months later, we get a rejection email, and it's just like, why'd you even bother? Why'd you even bother? And then we get into where we're given the offer, and we get in, and we're like, oh, hell no. This is not a fit. This is toxic. This has toxicity written all over it. Or, in the rare case, it actually is a good fit. But so often we either hire people that we're great interviewers and terrible for the organization, or we get hired into an organization and we're just like, this is the shit I just left. Again, how much time at this point has been wasted? Finding the jobs, filling out the applications, updating my resume, potentially writing a cover letter, going through 1, 2, 3, 4 interviews to get into a role that I've basically been lied to about. And now, I've got all my eggs in this basket. I have other opportunities that I have let go that could have been a better fit, and I'm right back where I started. And this is a common problem on both the individual side and the organization side. So what do we do about it? How do we do this differently? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have the answer. I have ideas. I don't have a lot of research that I've done on the topic, but it's definitely a conversation that we need to be having. It's a conversation that we need to be having as individuals, we need to be having as organizations, and really figuring out, how do we make this work? We don't have time and resources to waste. I think we need to really think about how we go through the job process in America, or even globally, I don't know. We need to figure out a better way to do this that is less costly, that is less time consuming, and actually gets us the results that we want. I think some of this comes from a mindset of this is just the way we've always done it here in America. But I think we've also forgotten about the fact that jobs nowadays, they're no longer industrial jobs. They're more intellectual property positions versus goods, more services. We cannot utilize the same model for hiring as we did 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago. It's not working, and it's getting worse. I obviously don't claim to have all the answers, But I really feel like, especially in this age of technology and AI, we need to be shifting to a more people-centric, human-centric model. And one way that we can do that is through this hiring process. I made a joke because I had this amazing idea about having these organizations or these people who get to know candidates and organizations, and then they kind of network with each other to determine, like, hey, I think that this person and their personality would fit well with this organization and so forth. And I kind of jokingly called it professional matchmaking. And then it turns out I was like basically describing recruiting. So maybe that's one of the things that we need to think about, or maybe we look at, recruiting differently. Maybe it is more of a, you reach out to a recruiter, and then that recruiter can go to the organization on your behalf to say, hey, I've got a really great candidate based on, what I know about your organization and your values and all these things. These are just thoughts and ideas, not fleshed out, but it would be more of that human side of things where you put yourself out on the job market. You speak with a recruiter who gets to know you, and then they essentially facilitate, here's some roles that are open, here's some organizations, let me connect you with someone to see what's available. I think we have this really bad habit of interviewing for the role and not necessarily for the organization. There have been times that I have applied to roles because I wanted to work for the organization. It didn't necessarily mean that the role I was applying for is the one that I wanted. It was one that maybe I was qualified for. There could have been several roles that were available that I was interested in, but you got to pick one. And then I get into the interview and I'm describing my skills. And at the very end, I'm like, if this role isn't a fit, if there's other roles that you feel like I can fulfill. And these in-house recruiters are so focused on just the roles that they are trying to fill that I don't know if they just don't have time or what the issue is, but it's like, if I'm not a good fit for this role or this team or department, but I am for something else, turn me over to this person. Like, get me in contact with this person. Let me continue the conversation over here. Or if you know of a role that's coming up, like, it's like we get pigeonholed into the role that we have applied for, even though we're saying, I'm not married to this role that I've applied for, but we still get kind of stuck and then have to go through the whole applying process again, and just more and more resource wasting, time wasting. I'll probably create another video that goes a little bit more into my ideas around what we do to fix this, but I really want to know how much of this resonates with you, how much of this you're like, yes, or no, or what your thoughts and ideas are. What are some things that I'm not thinking about? But I'm sick of this antiquated and wasteful way of hiring. I don't like to waste time on things that aren't working. And I think that's one of the reasons why it has taken me a little bit to get back into the job market and really kind of figure out what it is I want to do, because it feels like a rat race. And I work smarter, not harder. And I'm trying to really figure out what makes sense for me and what my next move is. Okay, I'm going to wrap it here. I'm going to record a couple of additional videos on my thoughts about this, but thanks for listening. Let me know what you think. Let me know what's going on in your head. Where are you with all of this? So I'll just wrap it with saying thanks, y'all. Love y'all.